Hi everyone, Big Pauly back for a brand new video and back for another episode of stuff that I can be bothered to watch. Yes, now this series has been up and down. There's been times where I've kept it, constant, and there's been times when there's been a big gap where things have got in the way, and it's been all over the place, to be perfectly honest. My main problem is that I couldn't decide whether or not to review the films after I've seen them and just cut all these reviews together into one big video, or if to wait until the end of the term, the period, the 2 weeks or the 4 weeks, and then have a stack and then just talk about them. My problem with that is that I haven't got the sharpest memory. And a lot of the time I get to like 2 weeks or 4 weeks and I've forgotten the plot points of the film, and it becomes a little bit more tricky to talk about a film if it didn't leave an impression with me, and I have to kind of like Google it and then maybe even watch a trailer. So yeah, I've not got the sharpest memory, so I have decided that all future episodes of stuff that I can be bothered to watch, I will be watching the films and then I will be talking about them straight after, when everything is fresh in this little mind of mine and I know what I'm talking about. Of course, the only downfall on that is that my appearance may change. Yes, one segment may have a different t-shirt to another t-shirt. I may have stubble. I may be clean shaven. One video maybe I've lost 15 stone and then another video I haven't. I doubt that's going to happen, but the others probably will. So I hope you understand my position and how I want to get the reviews out for you on a constant basis. And I think this is the best way to go for me, for my memory. So without any further ado, let's kick it off with the first film I want to talk about, and that is Thelma. Okay, so last night I got an opportunity to watch a new film called Thelma. Yes, I watched this with Papa Bowman. We both enjoyed it. I watched the trailer for this and yeah, I thought that's my type of cup of tea. It kind of reminded me of the Michael Caine one where he was in the old people's home, and he went on a road trip to the war memorial thing over in France. And this stars June Squibb as the title character of Thelma, and she lives in this assisted housing unit, old people's home as we come to call them, and she's visited by her grandson, who's not the sharpest tool in the kit. He's always beating himself up over not finishing school and that he's a constant failure and that kind of thing. But he is a loving grandson and he helps Thelma with her computer skills, reading emails and sending emails and listening to videos of her husband that passed away a couple of years ago. Now Thelma gets a phone call from supposedly her son, who's been in a nasty car crash and he's in prison, and he tells her that she's going to get a phone call from a lawyer and that they need some money to help bail him out and that kind of thing. And she does get the phone call. She gets the phone call from the lawyer. They give her instructions on how to transfer the money. And she gets together like £10,000, put it in an envelope and take it to the post office. But unfortunately, it's not as it seems. We've all heard about, phone call scams and internet scams and things like that. I mean, we still get them now. Me and Papa Bowman get phone calls from people supposedly from like British Gas or, BT and things like that. Even Amazon, saying that there's a charge on our credit card and we need to do this. So people get them all the time. It's probably bigger now than it's ever been before. And unfortunately, she gets roped into this. But she feels like, you know, a bit of a fool, a bit of an idiot for falling for it. And she decides, put matters into her own hands, and she goes out and goes to confront them. And she sets out across the city at night time. She is accompanied on the journey by an old friend played by Richard Roundtree, who's in another assisted care facility, and she clocks eyes on his Motability scooter, his two-seater. Yeah, we're going deluxe. So she steals that. But eventually he agrees to go with her to confront these people to try and get her money back. That's basically it. That is the story. It is a fun little film. There's a lot of laughs in it, especially from June Squibb. She's delightful to watch. And it is based on a true story. Just the performances were great. Her alone carried this entire film. And we get Richard Roundtree, who's really good as well. Parker Posey, who plays her daughter. And Clark, I can't remember his name. Oh, Greg Clark? Oh, I can't remember his name. From Avengers. So it's a fun film. It's a road trip film. Just grabbing a Motability scooter, taking it across the city to confront the people that took your money. Malcolm McDowell is in the film as well, near the end. And it's just a nice little heartwarming road trip. It also reminded me a bit of the... what was the name of that film where this guy drove a lawnmower across country? The Straight Story. It's a bit of a mixture of The Straight Story mixed with The Great Escaper. It's kind of like a blend of those two films. But it is a fun little film. It's heartwarming, and you just love June Squibb. She's just such a lovely character, and you kind of feel like she's your grandma. Yeah, and you'd want to do anything to protect her. So yeah, really good film. Really enjoyed it. It's not overly long. It's an hour and a half. That is a good thing. You know, we kind of need these films. We need these films where they're about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. We don't want to rely on a film where you have to sit for nearly 3 hours to get to the point. You know, it's just tell the story, get out, and yeah, you don't need to book 2 weeks holiday to watch a film. So yeah, I really had fun with this. Dad did as well. He was laughing. So that was Thelma. I definitely recommend you watch this if you kind of like road trip mixed with a bit of quirky old people in an old people's home, sort of that kind of film. So yeah, definitely recommend Thelma. Okay, next up we are going back to 1984 with James Cameron's The Terminator. Yes, this is a new 4K. This is the 4K Steelbook. I had a chance to watch it yesterday. It is a classic James Cameron film. I mean, I don't really need to tell you about the story, but if you're unfamiliar, it's basically about this kind of cybernetic humanoid android that's sent back in time to kill the mother of what will be the future resistance leader that goes up against these machines. And also another character, Kyle Reese, played by Michael Biehn, comes back to protect Sarah Connor and to kick Terminator arse, basically. Of course, we had to wait a long time for a sequel to The Terminator. This was 84. Terminator 2 came around in 91, so there was a bit of a gap. But this is the film that started the whole Terminator franchise. And it is a great film. It is two of the best Terminator films. This one and Terminator 2. We get great performances from Michael Biehn and a great performance from Linda Hamilton. Lance Hendrickson's in there as well as a cop. Plus we also get, of course, Arnie as the Terminator. The film that basically kicked his entire Hollywood career off. And he will always forever be known as the Terminator. He can't get away from that. But he loves this character, and he's pursued this character for decades, and he's come back several times. Maybe sometimes not as successful as other times, but it's still a great character. And it kick-started a whole generation of this type of futuristic war type of film. Now, this has a new 4K transfer, which was overseen by James Cameron himself. Now, Terminator 2 is not a very good transfer. It's very shiny, it's very glossy, it's very waxy, it's too clinical. They kind of like got rid of like all the grain. There is a very thin layer of grain throughout the film, but it is a sharp picture. Incredibly sharp picture. I'll put a picture here of just a screenshot that I took of Linda Hamilton at the end of the film, and this is only taken a photograph from my phone on my OLED, so it's no capture or anything like that. It's just a pure photo, and you can see the detail in Linda Hamilton's face, and you can see the pimples and the hairs and everything. Everything is so sharp. The colors also are brilliant because it's Dolby Vision. Especially like the purples of the Terminator laser guns and fire, and especially when the Terminator, they blow the Terminator up at the end and there's that massive fire, and it's just bright orange and everything. Also, I watched it with a Dolby Atmos soundtrack, and that was fantastic. I've never heard Terminator like this before. There's a lot of bass, especially like the future scenes, the rumbling of like the Terminator machines, the vehicles, the laser fire and stuff like that. Gunshots sounded a little bit different as well. There was some use of the overhead, especially in the future, the future wars where these Terminator machines flew straight over your head. There was a lot that was going on up there. So yeah, they used a lot of the sound stage for it. So it was a very impressive Dolby Atmos soundtrack put together with a really impressive 4K transfer. The best that it's ever looked, the best probably that it will ever be. This is the ultimate edition now for the Terminator. So I would definitely advise that if you've only got the DVD or you've only got the Blu-ray and you have 4K capability, don't hesitate, buy it. Definitely. Like I say, Terminator 2 unfortunately didn't have a brilliant transfer, but I hope maybe one day Cameron goes back and redoes it. Because he did get a lot of backlash for that transfer. But yeah, there we go. So that is the Terminator from 1984. A definite addition to your collection. Okay, so next up we have Magpie. Yes, this is the latest film starring Daisy Ridley and Shazad Latif. I think that might be how you pronounce his name. I've previously seen him in Star Trek Discovery. He was in the first 2 seasons. Really good character as well. This is from a story, an idea from Daisy herself, and it was actually written by Tom Bateman, her husband. And it's about this couple that haven't got the best relationship. The husband, Ben, he's an author, although he hasn't had a book in quite a while. And their relationship is very strained. The daughter, Matilda, gets cast in this period drama movie with an actress called Matilda Lutz. I think that's her name. She was actually the lead character in the film Revenge, if you remember that. Really good film. And she plays a character called Alicia. Now, Ben takes Matilda, Tilly, as she's known to the family, to the set every day of this big production, and he starts to get closer to Alicia, and there's kind of like relationship kind of starts to form. Now Annette, Daisy Ridley, is becoming suspicious of this potential relationship. Their marriage is already struggling, and she sees Alicia as a threat and becomes, you know, kind of jealous and very suspicious of her husband. She's, you know, swiping his phone in the middle of the night to, you know, have a look, see if there's any pictures and text messages and things like that. Having a look at his laptop and that, see what he's been up to. Meanwhile, Ben is moving further and further away from the relationship with Annette, and becoming closer and closer with Alicia. Now, that's all I'm going to say about the movie. It is just a film about a relationship, jealousy and isolation, rejection, but there is a twist to the film. I'm not going to talk about it because it's one of those films where you have to watch it to realise what the twist is. But I didn't see the twist coming. Some people might see the twist coming. But yeah, it was clever. And that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. So yeah, I thought it was a really good film. The performances were really good. Daisy Ridley, always fantastic in my opinion. And Shazad Latif, he was really good as well. So the two main characters were great there. But yeah, I enjoyed the film. It's only about 90 minutes long, which is kind of rare this day and age to have a film of this duration. But this is the type of film that works about 90 minutes. You know, you can't really stretch it out too long. And that's what I've come to love about rediscovering films for, you know, 90 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes. You know, they don't oversaturate it with long, drawn out, boring moments and unnecessary dialogue. So it's nice to have, you know, a nice film that gets to the point, tells the story, and you're out the door. There we go. So that is Magpie. It is available to rent or purchase. There's no physical release for it yet. I hope there will be a physical release somewhere around the world. I will grab that. So that is Magpie. Yeah, really enjoyed this one. Okay, next up from 1985, we have The Breakfast Club from John Hughes. Now, I'm a big fan of John Hughes films, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, lots of comedies throughout the 80s, and I was born in 1971 and I grew up in the 80s, so I pretty much watched most films that came out in the 80s. This one escaped me for some reason. I never watched it. I never had the inkling to watch it, and even up until now I've been like, well, I'll watch it one day. Yeah, so I don't know why. I don't know. It's just one of those funny things. But anyway, this is a Criterion release. I watched this last night, so it's fresh in my mind. And what is it about? It's about a group of five, I won't say kids, five like high school seniors. Is it in Sherman? I'm pretty sure it's Sherman High School, in Illinois, I believe. And they're given Saturday detention. So they're there all on their own, sitting in one big room, and they're given a task by the teacher to write an essay on who they are. Self-exploration, so to speak. Okay, so on the cast we've got Anthony Michael Hall. He's kind of a bit of a geeky character, a bit quiet. Then we've got Molly Ringwald there. Of course, everybody knows Molly Ringwald from back in the day. She was the town bike. Yes, she was in a lot of 80s films. We have Ali Sheedy here. She was in Universal Soldier, I think. And she's kind of a recluse type of character. Keeps to herself. We also have Emilio Estevez there, who's kind of like the sporty popular kid of the school. And then we have Judd Nelson up the top there. He's kind of a bit of a bully. In fact, when I was watching the film, the first character that came to mind that reminded me of him was Biff from Back to the Future. And they're both 1985, so yeah, so I kind of feel like they're the same character split in two. Yeah, but this is an hour and a half set in a school, mostly in one sitting, in one room. They do go, you know, through the corridors and through some like overhead things in the school, you know, like the air vents. But it's amazingly about them trying to get on, snapping at each other, insulting at each other, and that's it. That's all the film is, basically. And I gotta say, I thought it was bloody good. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. One single setting, great acting, especially from Judd Nelson. I don't know what it is. I kind of like that type of character, like him and Biff. I think Biff is probably my favourite character in Back to the Future. So I don't know what that says about me. I certainly wasn't the high school bully. But I like that kind of sarcastic, witty, one-liner and snappy type of character. But yeah, I thought he did great. Everybody else did good as well. Emilio Estevez, Molly Ringwald was great as well. And yeah, all the other characters. Music was great, of course, because it was 80s. So we've got some very familiar themes and some very familiar songs so far as, you know, the 80s charts. This is a Criterion release, and I gotta say, for 1985, the picture quality was bloody brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. It really looked like it was actually filmed now. It was that good. Believe me. And I hear that there's probably a 4K release coming next year, which I'll definitely grab. 97 minutes, so it's not a very long film. 1985. Really had fun with this. It does come with a little booklet in there as well, which basically explains the 5 characters. You've got the brain, that's Anthony Michael Hall. Yeah. You got the athlete, that's Emilio Estevez. You got the basket case, that's Ali Sheedy. The princess, Molly Ringwald, and the criminal, that's Judd Nelson. And it's got lots of lovely bits in here as well about the film and the making of and stuff like that, and pictures. So yeah, really had fun with it. I didn't think it was going to be that good. I knew it was going to be goofy, but I didn't think it was going to be that engrossing, just watching 5 actors sitting in a room talking for most of the film. And that shows what great actors they are. Yeah, definitely watch that if you haven't seen that. Brilliant film from the 1980s. Definitely going to stay in my collection, of course, and I probably will upgrade it to the 4K when the 4K comes out. So that's definitely a Big Pauly recommendation, The Breakfast Club. Okay, so to wrap this little review series up, this episode, I've got a couple of Christmas films I just want to quickly talk about. First of all, Violent Night, starring David Harbour. I have reviewed this before. I did go to the cinema to see it. It is definitely now a Christmas staple in this house. I watched it a couple of days ago. It is a lot of fun. It's basically about Santa Claus, who's kind of like losing his Christmas spirit because of, you know, the way kids are and things like that. And there's this big old house that's run by Mrs. Griswold, and there's a couple of families, and John Leguizamo comes in, who's the baddie of the film, and wants to steal all the money that's held in a vault in the basement. It's always about the money, and Santa has to intervene. There's a lot of violence in it. There's a lot of bone crushing. There's a lot of decapitation. It's like a Home Alone X-rated movie. But it's a hell of a lot of fun. It's got some great Christmas music in it. It's got some fantastic one-liners from especially from John Leguizamo. And it's just one of those little Christmas films that, yeah, a bit of action, kick-ass. What can you say? Yes, I love it. I love Silent Night. Apparently there's going to be a sequel, so I look forward to that. Next up, let me just tilt this over here. Next up, I'll put a little poster up there, and it is Red One, with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Chris Evans. I went to see this with Lulu and Claire at the beginning of November, which was a bit silly. I think they should have actually, you know, pushed it to cinemas in December. They would have probably got a bigger turnout, because you know, people weren't really in the spirit of it back in the early November. And this also stars J.K. Simmons as St. Nick, Santa Claus. He's a more buff Santa, you know, he works out, and he gets kidnapped because of Chris Evans, who's this kind of like gadget bloke, and he kind of like sells the location of where Santa is to this shady organisation. And it's up to Dwayne Johnson's character, who's Santa's bodyguard, and Chris Evans' character, to go find St. Nick and foil the villain. And we get Krampus in there. We get like an evil witch, and it's a family Christmas film. Lots of action, fast paced in some areas. There's some snowmen fighting on a kind of an island, a desert island, which kind of reminded me a little bit of The Mummy 3. But it's an expensive film. It's $350 million. And I don't think it shows on screen. Probably because 150 million of that is probably Dwayne Johnson's pay packet. Yeah, it's a good film. It's not brilliant, but it does have rewatchability, especially at Christmas. Yeah, so it's a good bit of entertainment if you want this sort of thing. And the last Christmas film I want to talk about is a film called Carry On. Yeah, I know, you just wait for Kenneth Williams and all that lot to come in, who I say matron. No, this is the latest Christmas film on Netflix, starring Taron Egerton and also Jason Bateman. They're calling this the new Die Hard, which is nowhere near as good as Die Hard, and it's not even the same type of format. If I was to call this a Die Hard film, it would be in the vein of Die Hard 2, because that was set in an airport, whereas Die Hard was up an office block. Yeah, this one, Taron Egerton plays this kind of like security bloke at an airport, you know, where they scan the things going along the conveyor belt to see what's in your luggage and that. And he gets past this earpiece that he sticks in, and he gets a voice, and the voice tells him that he has to let the next person with the big suitcase just ignore what comes across on the scanner and let them through. And of course, it's going to be something dodgy, isn't it? I'm not going to talk about it because it's a very new film, so I don't want to give anything away. It's kind of a bit slow for the first hour. It's just him in his role with his girlfriend, and meshing with the fellow guys at the airport, you know, the other security officers. It doesn't start going until about an hour in. There is some good action in it. There's not a lot of action in it, actually, come to think of it. Yeah. You're not thinking Die Hard action in this. It's got some action, but it's nothing to shout about. No, Papa Bowman watched it. He fell asleep as well about halfway in. Because as I say, the first hour is a bit slow. It's a one-time Netflix watch, like most Netflix films or any streaming film. It's a one-time watch. So I don't know if this will ever get a physical release. It probably won't. Um, it's a bit slow. It's just a bit slow. But there's a good few bits of action in it, but it's nothing special. It's nothing special. Yeah, so there we go. So that is a couple of little films that I've just thought I'd review and talk about. As you've noticed in the video, either my t-shirts changed or the background's changed because I filmed this over a couple of weeks. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like it by giving it some thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, comment and share. See you on the next video very soon. Bye bye.